Welcome to episode 24 of the Practice Squad, a show where we talk about football and make the replacement refs look like pros. I'm your host and fourth string quarterback Jeremy, joined each and every week by my co-host and backup long snapper Joseph. How's it going, man?
I think a baby calf going into a slaughterhouse had a better chance than the Dolphins against the Patriots.
102 points, man. 102 points over 2 weeks. I'm sorry. It hurts. I know it hurts. I just
Yeah.
went through it recently. Yeah, it's like, I don't know what to say. So I will say though that we are live right here on YouTube every other week during the regular season. Uh, Time is varying a little bit. We're not sure exactly what time each week. It might change a little bit. Tonight we're live at 7:30. Probably will be around that time each week or each bye week's show. So I'll make sure to post on Facebook and Twitter so you guys stay up to speed on our schedule. This week we've got a lot to go over because we're covering 2 weeks worth of content. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Our first segment is our Games of the Week segment, just like last season, except this time we've got two games for you. So our Week 1 Game of the Week, if you remember, was Chiefs and Jaguars. And then in the off week, when we didn't have a show, Joseph and I decided together that our Week 2 Game of the Week was going to be Saints at Rams. So let's start off with Chiefs at Jaguars. What did you think?
So DJ Chark for the Jags made one of the greatest catches I've ever seen. That over the shoulder catch in the end
Yep.
zone.
Mm-hmm.
That was ridiculous. Yeah, I mean, we knew that we figured that Mahomes was going to play well, and we have the rest of the season to see how well he plays. But there'd probably be a little bit of regression, and I don't think we saw that at all. 378 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks, high completion percentage. He was on a roll, and he was still able to make what makes Mahomes so special is those like quick decisions that seem really unique. Like he'll be running and then throw it sideways or throw it under, sidearm or do some kind of juke move or whatever. But he still had those. So Mahomes looks good. The Jacksonville defense, Saxonville did not show up, and they didn't sack him at all actually. And sadly, I guess the big news is Nick Foles got injured. So sad start for the Jacksonville season.
Yeah, I thought that was a really kind of bummer game for the Jaguars, mainly for that reason. And I mean, their backup Gardner Minshew played really well, actually, as kind of surprisingly well. He
Yeah,
was 22 for 25 for 275 yards, 2 touchdowns, a pick, and a 122.5 rating. So he held his own. I thought he got burned by a few O-line holding penalties that held them back a little bit. And I honestly I thought when I looked at the box score, because I didn't watch this game live, I had to watch it later on Game Pass, and when I looked at the box score, it just looked like the Chiefs were manhandling them. But then when I watched the game, even though the Chiefs always had the edge, I felt like Jacksonville actually played pretty well in the first half. Um, I think that great DJ Chark pass was in the first half, wasn't it?
I think so.
Yeah. So they were looking pretty good in the first half. The defense was up and down. They had a big blown coverage, and they had a kind of porous D line for most of the day. But they did some things well. I mean, Fournette, I felt like just didn't get enough carries for some reason. He only had 13 carries, but he was averaging over 4 yards a carry. So I don't know what was up with that. He had a few receptions. Um, he did have that really crucial fumble later in the game that I thought, in my opinion, that was the turning point in the game. Uh, but I think the real the real highlight of the game was Sammy Watkins.
He tore it up, man.
Yeah, you don't see performances like that every week.
Do you have a stat line in front of you?
Yeah, he was 9 receptions on 11 targets for 198 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, that's wow.
I mean, is that up there with like top 20 games of all time numbers? You think?
Ooh. It feels like it. I mean, the 200-yard range. Maybe I should look that up later in the show, but it'd be hard to imagine that 200 yards has been eclipsed more than 20 or 30 times. Then you include the fact that it was only 9 receptions and you also had 3 touchdowns with it. So, yeah, it's up there. It's up there.
Yeah, in my gut, I want to say it's up there. Um, yeah, he was unstoppable uh, on Sunday. So I have a question for you. I'm struggling with trying to understand the Jaguars as a team. I think they're just they're a difficult team because they seem to be ever since they uh, built this so-called vaunted defense. I feel like they've been kind of streaky. Um, do you think their D is as good as people say it is?
Consistently, no. And I wonder if people, well, and you saw that Jalen Ramsey wants out, right?
I did hear about that today. Yeah.
Yeah, he's demanding a trade, or requesting a trade. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the recognition that Jacksonville had of their defense was from that great year a few years ago, and maybe since they were playing above their actual potential, then people kind of maybe overhyped them or over ranked them. But yeah, since then they've been streaky and haven't been consistent enough, and haven't even reached the high peaks that they did a few years ago. So I don't think they're as good. Um, and the other question is it, because they lost, Malik Jackson, right? They traded him. Um, and now Ramsey wants out. So don't know what are the missing pieces. Don't know what the other pieces are that they're missing that they need to get back to that original, great defense, or if that was just a streaky thing to begin with.
Yeah. I'm not really sure either. So real quick, so I'm getting some reports that our audio is not coming through, and I don't know what the problem is. So I'm just gonna keep going with the show. We've got a local recording where the audio is fine. So if you can hear us, I'm sorry for the people that can't. I'm just gonna keep going, and we'll upload this video. You'll have the chance to watch later. But it's not at this point. It's not worth stopping the show to try to spend 20 minutes debugging an issue. So we're just gonna keep rolling. Um, yeah, I think that like we've always talked about, 2 years ago we thought was a bloated year, and last year was a subpar year, and we thought this year they were going to kind of normalize a little bit. But so far, I feel like they're still uh, below their mean a little bit, and I don't know if that is their true mean or if their actual mean is somewhere in between those first 2 years. So it really, in my opinion, with Nick Foles out for probably half the season, maybe more, who knows? I It's gonna be on their defense, I think, to come through and win games. And when they're in a division with the Texans, who I personally don't believe in, but I know some people do, and the Titans, who can win games, I just don't. I don't know uh, if I just don't know if they have it if the defense can't at least be average.
Yeah, that was a fair statement.
Um. So, oh, funny thing on this in this game. So Miles Jack got ejected. I didn't actually see what he did. I think he punched somebody. But on that play where he got ejected, this is classic NFL rule book right here. There were four unsportsmanlike conducts, two on each team, and they all offset.
Yeah, that That's all you can do is laugh at that one.
So, uh, um, yeah, I mean, I don't think I have much else to say about this game. I mean, other than some epic performances, loved watching Chark and Watkins. Really feel bad for them with Foles. I think he's gonna long term is gonna be their biggest issue is not having him. So, do you want to move on to Saints at
Yeah,
Rams?
yeah,
Okay, so Breeze is out. That sucks.
yeah. I'm thinking. I saw last that he's out for 6 weeks.
6 weeks. Okay. I haven't. Did you look at their schedule to see if the next 6 weeks are difficult games or not?
No, but I can do that. Why don't you go ahead and give your?
Okay, yeah. Why don't you look that up? Because I'm curious if they have an easier schedule and maybe they'll be okay in the first half. Um, so this was just kind of a weird game. It looked like both offenses came out in the first half and just kind of lay an egg. Like they looked rusty. They weren't on the same page. They weren't playing very well. And you know that when the Saints defense is walking all over you, that you are not having a good day. Um, Gurley was a total zero early on. He ended up salvaging himself with 16 carries for 63 yards, just under a 4.0 average. He had a touchdown, so he put a little bit together later, I think probably when the Saints D was tired. But he's still, I'm a little worried about him. I don't know if he's ever going to get back to that peak that he had. I think it was a couple years ago. He's been struggling on and off with injuries, had trouble staying on the field. So long term, I just don't know if they're going to have him as a key piece. Now they have an amazing, passing offense. Goff is playing really well, and they've got some really good receivers. So they may not need a tremendous running game to win 11, 12 games. But it would be nice to see Gurley keep playing at that high level. And then I had one other comment on this one, which was a sort of a controversial thing, but I'll save that for after you give your thoughts.
Okay, yeah. Well, then I'll let you keep that because I was going to say that. So I'll defer back to you. Um, so Breeze is out for 6 weeks. That's the initial estimate. And their next 6 games are kind of up and down. They have at Seahawks, Cowboys, Bucks, at Jags, at Bears, Cardinals, Falcons. That was 7 actually. But so at Bears, at Seahawks gonna be tough. A Bucks game, Cowboys maybe get one of those. So they they'll probably go 2-4, in my opinion.
And they're
Which
one
might
and
be
one now, so you think they'll be 3-5 at half?
yeah. I think that's I can't imagine them going 1-5. Uh, I think they're more likely to go 3-3 than they are 1-5. So yeah, 3-5 at the half, and then their second half is more division games, um, and it looks like more home games.
Okay.
So I the question is 9 games going to be enough to win a wild card spot in the national in the
I don't
NFC?
I don't think so. I think it's gonna have to be 10 this
Yeah,
year.
no,
It's so
yeah.
stacked.
And we still don't know. I mean, maybe the Falcons or even the Panthers can pull something out. So it's not over even for the division. So hopefully
No,
that
I
comes.
agree. Yeah, no, with this Breeze getting injured really changes everything. I mean, I feel like it's now sort of a three-way free for all for the
Yeah,
division at this point.
well, that and the Saints. I mean, they could have conceivably been a bye team,
Yeah,
and now they may not even make the playoffs.
I think you and I predicted that they were going to be a bye team, didn't we?
I
Last
think
or a
so.
couple weeks ago? Yeah.
I
So,
know we both had them at least division winners.
y- yes, absolutely, yeah. For sure.
So yeah, that's really sad. As for the game, yeah, it was really slow to start with. So Goff's receiving core is just amazing, and it's not just their talent because they're each unique. Like Cup has great hands, and um, even though he's not super fast, makes great moves downfield when he catches the ball. Cooks is just a speedy freak athlete. And then Robert Woods, I mean, he's also fast, but did you see that catch that I think it was Woods? It was later on in the game, and I think it's what sealed the deal. Goff threw it like to the side, threw it low. The defender looked like he was almost going to block it. Woods caught it off his, shoelaces, and then just started sprinting downfield.
No, I didn't see that.
Oh man, okay, that was play of the game, or that was one of the plays of the game. And then it was either Cooks or Woods had a phenomenal catch, and another all year catch. Cup had that great run that towards the end. It's like a 71-yard reception. The guy down like the 1 yard line. And even though Goff gets credited for 70 of those yards or whatever, 55 of them were all Cup. I mean, it was, again, an amazing play where it was basically, when Marshawn Lynch got beast mode for that run against Seattle or the Saints years ago in the playoffs. Yeah. This was almost like a wide receiver version of that. Not as much, but close. And it was great. So good to see them clicking at the ends. But yeah, it was pretty stale. Teddy Bridgewater did not look stale overall, not at the end. Bridgewater looked uncomfortable in the pocket. I don't know if it's how much it's going to stay like that. Who knows going forward? He'll get more comfortable. But Kamara wasn't much of a play, and obviously Michael Thomas wasn't because Breeze was out. So I just don't know if they can't get that chemistry with Bridgewater, and or if he doesn't have sufficient, playmaking ability, then they're just definitely a below average team. That's not going to be enough.
Yeah, I am worried about the Bridgewater factor, but I was also a little concerned because they started kind of slow even with Breeze.
No, that is true. Though he was getting hot just before the injury. He had, I think, 3 completions. Like he was doing. I remember that he was doing well just before the injury. It was either on the play he got injured or the play after, where he was starting to pick it up.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's maybe a little bit too little of numbers to say.
Quarter.
Yeah, but I mean, he was 3 for 5. He only had 38 yards and had an interception. So he definitely had a bad start. Whether he would have turned it around or not, who knows? But yeah, it just looked like the whole Saints offense was uncomfortable in that game. So yeah, I'm sad about that. It's obviously sad for Breeze, but also because this just kind of changes so much. Could potentially, I shouldn't say it does definitively, but it could potentially change a lot about the NFC.
Well, it will at least change the bye. Like, because there's no way the Saints are going to get a bye now.
Right.
But yeah. How about that controversial play, man? I'm all fired up about that.
Okay, so it was a play where I think it was Cameron Jordan knocked the ball out of Goff's hands as he was throwing it. And the ball came out, he picked it up, and he ran it all the way to the end zone. But then because they had blown the play dead, the Saints got the ball, but only where the ball fell. Because they reviewed the play, they reviewed it, and it's the whole Tom Brady rule where is it a forward pass or is it a fumble because he hadn't started the forward momentum yet issue. And the referee on the field blew the play dead because I guess it looked to him like there was a forward throw happening, but the ball had come out and the defender had grabbed it and run all the way to the end zone. And so the result of the play was that they overturned it from an incomplete pass to a fumble, but they had to start the Saints just where the ball was, not with the touchdown.
Yeah, no, it's inexcusable. When it's that close of a play, or even
you don't blow the whistle.
Yeah, you just let it run out, and the replay will tell you. And the fact that that's not reviewable, I mean, this is just so dumb. Where you had to have great controversy last year in the NFC Championship, and then debate and discussion during the offseason just to add like one new element to reviewable plays, challenging pass interference. That stop. stop having to have controversies that can lead to one change. Look at the issues fundamentally and see where you're lacking, because this is another thing that's lacking. That should not have happened. Inexcusable. You know, Jeremy, you know how strict I am on this. The refs involved in that should be fined at least 5% of their salary and probably not even ref the next game. I don't think that, because then the refs, we see this all the time. It's like, oh, the refs made a mistake, and then no accountability.
Right. Yeah, it's the no accountability part that really hurts. And you and I have seen, even if you just look back to like the years when the Niners were good, which is really around when I started to get super into football. In the last 8 years, there have been so many devastatingly wrong calls made, and nothing is done about them at all. And over the years, we've seen like maybe 2 rule changes to address those issues. So,
Yeah, the
yeah,
NFL had a riot last year. Like all the fans had to riot against what happened with the Rams to get a call change. Like the whole nation had to see how had to talk about how bad that was for them to do something.
yeah, yeah. So, actually, on that point, if we're okay moving to our next segment, which is
Yeah,
highlights, I have another, it's a continuation of this discussion because it has to do with the rule change. Are you okay moving on to the next segment?
true, but hopefully you're not stealing my thunder, because if it's the Ravens Cardinals, I want to talk about it.
No, you'll have plenty of opportunity to talk about Ravens Cardinals. I wanted to make a comment about a PI call in the Seahawks Steelers game.
Go ahead, go ahead.
So there was a, here we go, Pete Carroll and his brain. Um, there was late in that game. Uh, I think the Steelers. I forget if the Steelers were up or not. I think the Seahawks were down and they were driving. I believe, I don't quote me on that, but I think they were down and they were driving. Russell Wilson threw one of those, ridiculous like 40-yard passes down, and there were 2 defenders on the receiver. I think it was Tyler Lockett, of course, right? And there was no flag thrown on the pass. It was incomplete pass, no flag thrown on for that. There was a flag thrown for a different issue on the down the field, or there should have been, or something like that. I think it was like the commentators were saying something about how there should have been a flag for roughing the passer or something like that, but there wasn't. There was no flag. So Pete Carroll challenges that and says he wants the PI to be reviewed. Okay, because now this year we can review PI calls, which I think is actually, some people are calling it ticky-tack and annoying and elongates games and stuff. I actually think it's good that we can do that now. However, in this case, it turned a pretty obvious non-pass interference play into a overturned call for a PI that gave the Seahawks like 40 yards. And it just made me sick because I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure that on that drive they scored. And it's like, it's over to it isn't just, the sin wasn't just that they missed a call, right? It's that they reviewed it and then they overturned it with no evidence. And it materially affected the outcome of the game. That is so unacceptable. And I get that PI oftentimes can be a difficult thing to call as a snap judgment, right? Because the guys are moving so fast and it can be hard to see at all angles. But when you have a look at a camera, slow motion, however they look at it, and they can see all the angles, there's just no excuse for that. And so I don't know. That for me, that was like, it wasn't a highlight, it was a low light. I was like, the only consolation was that I picked the Seahawks over the Steelers, so I ended up getting a point. But man, would I have been happy to see that, have gone the other way.
So I'll continue to break protocol here and speak on week 2. We'll go back to week 1 in a minute. So Cardinals at the Ravens. Um, I'll speak on the Ravens later when I get to week 1, but just this bad play call. So Ravens had the ball. It's late in the game. It was a pretty close game. I think it was 17-9. And Jackson throws it in the middle, and it was clearly a pass interference. Like the guy, like the Arizona Cardinal linebacker jumped on the wide receiver's back. Like it was clearly a pass interference, and it wasn't called. And then Harbaugh challenged it, and then on the first replay, you're just like, oh yeah, that's pass interference. Like it is 100% clear that contact was made before the ball got there. Right, that's one of the definitions. And just visually, the guy was like jumped in the air and like was on top of the guy. It was completely obvious, and they reviewed it several different replays, and it seemed like it was obviously going to be overturned, and they're like, ruling on the field stands, no penalty. You're just like, what? What is going on? How is that even possible? Like you could ask a 4-year-old, did he hit the other guy before the ball got there? Yes. Pass interference. So again, that one was so blatant that those guys lose 20% of their income. I mean, it was bad. It was bad. And what's sad is the guy that announced it. I don't know if he was the one that viewed it or not. Is a ref that I like and knows before, and he was doing a good job throughout the game. So I don't know what happened, but man, if you can look back at that, I'll look at the Steelers Seahawks. Go look at the Ravens call. I'll find the timestamp for you, but I think it was the first challenged PI this year, and they got it wrong. How sad is that?
Yeah, yeah.
We should go back to week 1 after this rant.
Yeah, can I read? I sorry, this is a sidetrack, but I got to read this quote just because we were just talking about the Seahawks. So, one of the ESPN writers goes off on this thing about how Russ Wilson had this amazing game, had his career best completion percentage, and then it says Pete Carroll agreed that Wilson's command of the position is better than it's ever been in his 8th season, saying, quote, "It's hard to imagine that someone could keep getting better when you're in year 8 or whatever it is. How could that happen? But it is. It's happening. We're watching it."
I think the best comment I can give to that is no comment.
Yeah, another low light of week 2. So yeah, go back to week 1. What highlights did you get from week 1?
Yeah, so I'll just tie this in with the Miami game. I know we kind of changed the format to speak less on our teams, but I want to talk more about the Ravens actually. So yeah, Baltimore, Miami got killed 59-10. So not only was it franchise records for what the Dolphins gave up in terms of yards and points, it was also a franchise record for points scored for the Ravens, at least in the first half. I think for the game too. But Lamar Jackson was great, had a perfect rating. Marquise Brown is great. We're going to have a segment later on that we'll get to that will discuss rookie wide receivers, and Marquise Brown, or as they call him, Hollywood Brown, was fantastic.
Wait, he already has a nickname?
Yeah, so I don't know if he had it over from – and I agree. That's why I'm calling him Marquise. And Marquise just sounds better. But, yeah, he already has that. It was on the first pass of the Ravens game to him, and he was already being called Hollywood Brown. I'm like, what? Where did that come from? But the Ravens, even though they've played 2 of the worst teams in the league so far, their defense, I think, is still going to be a top defense. And Jackson has much more poise at the pocket than he did last year, and he's not relying on the run. He had a lot of rushing yards against the Cardinals, which I'll get to in a minute, but they weren't all designed, and he still had plenty of passing plays. So watch out for the Ravens. I think they can win 12 games and possibly be a bye in the AFC. They're going to compete with the Chiefs, which we'll talk about later. Stay tuned for our predictions, but it was good to see them play and get back to that Ravens D. What else? So I watched Lions and Cardinals. I wanted to see how Kyler Murray would do. He was the first overall pick, if you remember, from this year. Um, so he's kind of short. He's like 5'10",
Did he
and
get passes batted down?
he had four. Yes, and it was funny because after the first one, the commentators made a comment about, oh, this is something that might be concerned about with the height. He's 5'10" and stuff. And then yeah, he had four in the game, and so he's athletic and he's fast. He's not Michael Vick fast, and he doesn't run. He's not. I mean, I don't think anyone's like Michael Vick, but he's not. He's not elusive as a runner as a lot of the other athletic quarterbacks either. So I don't know if that was like a little bit of hype. I mean, he's good, but and he has potential, but he was running around for his life so much. So maybe that Cardinals O line is one of the worst, or the Lions D line just stepped up, but he was scrambling all the time. Even against the Ravens, he scrambled, um, and he just looked a little uncomfortable. Deshaun Watson looked a lot more comfortable, and he was a rookie. So maybe we'll see how his learning curve is. But I think he has weird mechanics. He throws the ball too much like a baseball, which he did get drafted to play pro baseball, and he skipped out to go play football
Oh yeah, I
instead.
remember that.
But he stands almost too much in the pocket, which he almost has to because he's shorter. But he doesn't get enough movement from his legs or hips to drive the ball, and he's not like in that kind of ready, like bouncing stance that some quarterbacks will have, ready to throw. He just looks like he's there and he's just like ready to toss it. So maybe he's adjusting to the NFL. In college, he was, you know, easier and a little bit slower. So I'm a little iffy about him. I'm not too skeptical. I'm like saying he's a bust, but I'm like, we got to give it some more weeks. And then I think that's all I watched the first half of the Packers Bears, which is boring, and that's all I'll say.
Yeah, that was a pretty boring game. I watched most of that as well. Um,
how,
yeah.
how, the, how the Niners do week one?
Oh, the Niners looked great. I'll get to them and when we talk about when we do our quick cap to go over our teams. But yeah, the only other one that I had was uh, playing the Miami Dolphins this week. Guess who caught a touchdown pass for the Patriots?
Oh, yeah, he did, didn't he?
Mr. Chest. Big Chest or whatever. Is it Big Chest? I
What?
think that his nickname is Big Chest.
Oh, I didn't hear that. Oh, dude, you know what game we missed from week one? Texans Saints, the game of the week, like informally.
Oh, because it was so exciting.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
the last that's right. That's right. There were a bunch of epic plays in the last clock minute.
Yeah. Well, even the fourth quarter, like that fourth quarter was great, back and forth, and yeah, that. I mean, I guess we just kind of killed the IMAX there, but yeah, the Texans Saints game was great.
Yeah, no, that was
Wow.
a super. It was a super exciting game to watch. I didn't watch any of that game until the last minute, and I was like, oh, it's kind of close. I'll turn it on, and it was like one of the best, most exciting last minutes of a game I've ever seen. It
Yeah,
was awesome.
it was great. So I guess
Um,
it's some of our week one stuff. So we can. I didn't
yeah.
watch much week two, so
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty much it for. Most of my stuff was week two. So, you told me you wanted to make a comment about Christian McCaffrey and the Panthers
oh
loss
yeah,
to the Bucks.
that's right, that's right. So yes, so it's more so on Cam Newton, but I because so
Is it on Cam Newton or is it on the play calling?
it's on it's on the play execution. The play call was great, but the execution was bad, and it started with Cam Newton, and then it ended with McCaffrey, who did a little bit more, but also um, the defensive setup, they didn't read it. The offense didn't read it very well because they gave it away. So basically, Cam Newton is going to the right side, talking to the linemen, and he ended up, if you saw the game, he ended up not taking the ball. Like it was a direct snap to McCaffrey, who then ran left. They faked a reverse and ran left. The thing is, when I watched that game, like I just came on it live and like was right there. Like I watched the third down play, and then boom, 4th and 2, which then due to a penalty got like fourth and half a yard. And when Cam Newton stopped on the right-hand side of the line, I knew it was going to be a direct snap to McCaffrey. So if I knew it, clearly the defense knew it. He gave it away. He was too slow. He stopped. It was obvious that he was not going to get the ball. He did a terrible job of selling that it was going to be a fake play, and the defense knew. So last night I went back and I replayed it, and I watched it like 6, 7, 8 times in a row, and I was looking at different defenders, and they were calling it out. They called it out. They pointed at Newton, and they pointed at McCaffrey. They knew it. And when you go back and look on the left-hand side, there was a wide receiver for the Panthers who cut right. His cornerback defender didn't move because he knew where it was going, and he's the one that tackled McCaffrey. So if it had been sold better, now McCaffrey could have extended, I think, and would have gotten it, but it's less on his fault. It's like 10% his fault, 60% Newton, and then 30% the Panthers for not calling a timeout or trying to, better figure that out and give him advice. Because I think it was number 28 for the Bucks, knew it, saw it, didn't follow the receiver back. The linebacker picked him up and he tackled him, and that was it. And it was pathetic. And I don't even care that it was my eliminator and I lost. I just because I've never gone that far anyways, and that's honestly, eliminator's not that fun for me. But it's just objectively stupid, and I'm so frustrated that how can you not sell that you're going to get the ball? He just he walked over and then he just stopped, like he froze on the field, like he was a middle schooler playing football. And then everyone on the defense knew it, and that was the end of the game.
Well, I think Cam Newton is a middle schooler in an older man's body.
Touche.
All right, let's move on to our third segment of the night, and that is our quick cap. This is a new kind of retooled segment. So in our last season, we spent a pretty significant amount of time covering the Niners and Dolphins games for that week. And for multiple reasons, we have decided to make this a much, much shorter, more pointed segment. So I'll start with the Niners. I'm just going to give a couple quick notes on each game since we're covering 2 weeks, and then I'll pass it off to Joseph to talk about his horrendous Dolphins. So week 1 was Niners at Bucks. Talk about stout defense. Here's their stat line. 295 yards given up, 10 offensive points, 4 turnovers, including 2 pick sixes and 3 sacks. Sad part about the game was Tevin Coleman is out until after the bye week, which for us is week 4, with a high ankle sprain. But fear not, running back core, because in 49ers at Bengals this week, Matt Breida and Raheem Mostert totaled 204 yards for 8.2 yards per carry. I think they had 257 total yards on the ground. 572 yards of total offense. And then on defense, they had 4 sacks, 6 QB hits, 9 tackles for loss, and 7 pass breakups. So another week where the Niners defense just walks all over its opponent. And I was so this was a 10 a.m. game. I was at church, and I thought, maybe when I get out of church, it'll be sort of close and I'll go home, catch the last quarter. It'll be exciting. No, it was already a boring game by the time we got in the car to leave in the third quarter because they were up by like 25 points. So the sad news this week, another injury. Joe Staley is going to be out 6 to 8 weeks with a broken fibula, and we do not have a proper replacement left tackle. We got a 6th round draft pick rookie guy this year is going to be starting. So I'm a little worried about the protection on the left side, but we'll have to see how things go and how much that impacts Garoppolo and the offense. So all in all, looking forward to week 3, facing Steelers at home. Big Ben's out. So I think the Niners are like -6 or something like that on the Vegas line. So I'm looking forward to this next week. So let's talk about steaming pile of dolphin for a couple minutes.
First, I
Sorry, I
want
should have more empathy because not 3 years ago the Niners team was made up of practice squad players. So I I do deep down in my heart I empathize, but on the surface I'm gonna make fun of you.
because it's my fault that they. Yeah, I mean, first, congratulations on the 2-0 start. Good seeing you guys. You know what you scored like what 70 points combined these first two games.
72 points, yeah, and gave
Yeah,
up 20. It's 34.
yeah. So that's great. That's great to see. Um, I've been with you all these years since you guys started out really good and then struggled. So I'm gonna start with week 2 first. I didn't watch the game. I'll be honest. I don't need to. The game was already over when I got out of church.
Wait, no, it was already over before it started. You mean?
Yes, yes, in some sense it was. So I got out of church and I looked at and I see, 43-0. I'm like, oh boy. So look at the stat line. The quarterbacks combined, right? Fitzpatrick was trash, and then Rosen came in and was just less, but still bad. So combined, the quarterbacks were 18 for 39 for 142 yards. If that wasn't pathetic enough, it gets worse. 0 touchdowns and 4 interceptions.
Wait, that was the combined over 2 weeks?
No.
Or
That
just
was
against the Patriots?
just against the Patriots.
Okay.
Both quarterbacks combined. So that's very bad. My arm could not last 39 passing attempts now, but I feel like if I had like 15 passing attempts, I feel like I would put up a better chance than the average of what they put up. That's just that's so bad. And as for week 1, it's weird. Everything was working for the Ravens, right? Jackson played out of his mind. Marquise Brown was amazing. They had a blocked punt. They had, a fake punt play. There was at least 3 or 4 like huge plays that directly resulted in scoring plays. I think all were touchdowns. So while it was never going to be a close game, so many things bad happened for the Dolphins and so many things good happened for the Ravens that I think really, the score could have been like 37-19, something like that. But just everything clicked on the right and wrong side for the Dolphins and Ravens respectively, or I got that wrong the other way around. But still, really sad to see us playing poorly. I knew we were going to be bad. I don't think anyone thought we were going to be this bad, which leads me to believe that we're either tanking on purpose or Fitzpatrick only had a little bit of magic in him and he left it on the Bucks. So I am not looking forward. I mean, I'll watch the Cowboys Dolphins game. It's in Dallas, and I know we're gonna lose, but at least we have. I saw your email you just sent me that we traded Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, to the Steelers. So you
Yeah,
guys
and
have 3 first-round picks in 2020.
and 7 in the first 3 rounds total.
Yeah, that's you guys better not screw that up. That's a really good opportunity.
Yeah, and the Steelers, we get the Steelers pick. So, and we get our own pick.
Yeah, so if they blow, then it'll be really high.
Yeah, and since we're going to be really bad, so we might have 2 top 10 picks.
You guys might be 0-16 this year.
No, we're not.
You can never predict an 0-16 because an 0-16 is almost as hard to do as a 16-0. But you guys aren't going to win more than 3 games.
That's fair. Okay, so really quick, these last 2 games has helped prove my hypothesis. I believe deep down, under the right circumstances, though realistic, that a college team could be an NFL team. And I think after this last display, I'm more convinced of that. But I think the games the Dolphins could win, I'll just go over these. The Dolphins, these are the coulds, not definites. So they could beat the Redskins at home. They could beat the Jets or maybe Bills at home, more likely the Jets. And they could beat the Giants on the road and the Bengals at home. That's 4 games. I think they can win 2 or 3 of those, but that's about it.
That's possible. That's possible.
But that's about it, though.
Yeah. Well, you might be able to beat the Jets because apparently their defensive coordinator doesn't know how to plan because before their game tonight against the Browns, Greg Williams, their DC, said he scoffed when it was suggested that Odell Beckham Jr. is a dynamic player. He said, Odell who?
Dude, that's not even...
He looks like a fool because Beckham ripped apart his defense with an 89-yard touchdown. The Jets couldn't get close enough to deliver a cheap shot if they wanted to.
Yeah, Beckham, they lost. The game just ended. They lost 23-3. Beckham had 6 receptions for 161 yards.
Yeah, Beckham who?
So it's not
Odell who?
I understand why people say that, and it's only mildly funny when the context is like it's like a first-year player or so, and maybe whatever. It's like Beckham has proved himself. He's been a top 5 receiver in the league for the past 3 or 4 years, and there's no justification for saying Odell who. Like, it's just ridiculous.
I mean, maybe the only other circumstance I could see is if the Jets defense was like the 2013 Seahawks or something like that, and you're like coming in, trying to just talk trash about the other team and be confident. But when you're the Jets, like, you need all the help you can get. So saying Odell who just makes you look like an idiot.
Speaking of bad comments, we should go to the commentators at Darn States.
All right. So do you want to do yours first?
Yeah. So the first one I have is from the Jags Chiefs game in Week 1, and they must have been on the subject of Deshaun Jackson. And when the announcer said, "Deshaun Jackson just looks right in an Eagles jersey," and then the next one it was Rams Saints, and our beloved Joe Buck says, and this is like early on in the game when Breeze was still playing, "How do you win in the NFL? You have a quarterback who's good on 3rd down."
So to follow up that comment, if you want to run the football in the NFL, you cannot allow penetration.
Yeah, and
it's not a stupid comment in the sense that it's wrong. It's stupid in the sense that it's like Captain Obvious. And you see commentator. I mean, we could like write a book on the number of times that commentators make comments that are like that. And I just picked up on one of them. So the second quote I have is sort of a dual quote, a back and forth between Al Michaels and Chris Collinsworth on Thursday night. No, this wouldn't have been Thursday Night Football. This was Sunday Night Football. Sorry. Last night, the Eagles Falcons game. Al Michaels. So Carson Wentz got hurt. He came out. Josh McCown went in. And the first thing Al Michaels said was, Josh McCown, who's been with about 500 teams. and then later, Chris Collinsworth called Josh McCown the traveling wonder. Apparently, yeah, they dug up the stat later. He's been with 9 teams in 18 seasons.
Wow. Okay.
You gotta respect a guy like that for staying in the league.
Yeah. I'll have to go back and I was already happy with finding 2, and I didn't want to have to. It's hard when you watch the condensed version.
Oh yeah, because you don't get the quotes. The best quotes tend to be between the plays.
Yeah, and you think or like you hear part of one, but I have to go back and rewatch the Cardinals-Ravens game because Chris Carter, I heard at least 2 of them just in the condensed version. I was like, I'm not going to go back. I want to listen to that because I think Chris Carter probably has like 3 or 4 that are going to be really good. So I'm going to go back and try to find those and save them for later if they're good enough.
You should. I want to hear them. So our 5th segment of the night is our rookie review. And this is a new segment that we're toying around with a little bit. and it's basically to give a little bit more uh, look into the rookies that were picked up in the draft this year, and to kind of take a look at how they're doing, what their status is. So obviously we can't go through every position group every time, every episode. So this week we picked the wide receivers, and we're only focusing on the first 2 rounds of the draft. We may change that later, but I think that's fair just to start with, given the number of players we had. So the first round of this year's draft, there were only 2 wide receivers drafted. Number 25th overall, Marquise Brown for the Ravens. In his first game, this is his only game number 1 that I have here. He was 4 catches for on 5 targets for 147 yards, 2 touchdowns, just slamming those Miami Dolphins into the ground. And then the 32nd overall pick was N'Keal Harry, picked up by the Patriots, and he did not have any targets that day. I don't even know if he had snaps, but he didn't have any targets.
He was injured. He didn't play that game.
Okay. Do you know if he's planning on playing this year?
No, he played the second game. I think he had.
Oh, he played the second game?
Yeah, I'll look it up while you keep going. But
he was probably overshadowed by Antonio Brown. So I'll do the first couple of the second round. So 36 overall pick by the Niners, Deebo Samuel. He was three receptions on 3 targets for 17 yards. He did have a lost fumble. It was not a forced fumble. He bumped into one of his teammates, actually. He had a much better game yesterday. I think he had like 89 yards and a touchdown or something like that. So he played really well yesterday.
I think I'm wrong. So is it Harry or Henry?
Harry.
So he is out. I think he's like injured. I was thinking of Metcalf for the Seahawks.
Oh, for the Seahawks, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to go ahead and do AJ Brown, or do you want me to keep going through the list?
I don't have any stats.
Okay, all right. So I'll just go through this real quick then. So the 51st pick was AJ Brown for the Titans. Week 1, he was 3 catches for 4 targets on 100 yards. And then McCole Hardman for the Chiefs was nothing. no catches on 1 target. JJ Arcega-Whiteside for the Eagles didn't play. Paris Campbell for the Colts had 1 reception on 1 target for 1 yard. Andy Isabella for the Cardinals didn't play. And then the final pick of this second round was the Seahawks' DK Metcalf, who has now had 2 really good games. First game, he was 4 for 6 for 89 yards. And yesterday, he was 3 receptions on 7 targets for 61 yards and a touchdown. So I don't know if there were some drop balls in there or something, but he's on the rise. Because the last thing we need is another Seahawks receiver that just is annoying for like 10 years. Is he the new Doug Baldwin?
Well, Baldwin give him a little bit of grief because he wasn't like super athletic. At least Metcalf is like, he was like a freak athlete. He was coming out like his combine was great, and people, he had like 3% body fat, 6'3", 230. At least he's like a great athlete. Baldwin, you're just like, how are they doing that good?
So, yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't think anyone can do that.
I don't think so. I honestly think if you put any of these receivers, any of the Seahawks receivers over the last few years, Lockett, Metcalf, Baldwin, like the best guys, that if you put them on a team with a average or slightly above average quarterback, that they would be no better than like number 2 or number 3 wide receivers. Right. They're good because they're with Wilson. Baldwin maybe slightly bit more than that, but Lockett and Metcalf, I think. It's too early to say for Metcalf, but Lockett for sure is good because of Wilson.
Yes.
Okay, so we're gonna move into our final segment of the night, and that is our Week 3 game predictions. And I forgot to mention on our last episode how we're going to kind of handle this going forward. Since we're doing an every other week episode, obviously Joseph and I aren't going to make picks 2 weeks in advance because we need the data from the previous week to make good, educated guesses about who's going to win the next week. So what we're going to do is we're going to list our picks for the upcoming week only on the show. And then off the show, in the off week, Joseph and I are going to make our picks like we do every week. And I'm going to attempt to do my best to post them on Facebook and Twitter so that you guys can see them, so that we have a little bit of accountability. But for now, you're just going to have to trust us. And then we'll report on our records every episode. And that will include both of the previous week's picks as well as our season numbers so far. So to go over the records real quick. So the first 2 weeks, and I need to actually check now to see. Yeah, so the Browns game just ended, and I picked Jets. So I am 20, 21, 10, and 1 in the first 2 weeks.
And I should be 19, 12, and 1.
And Joseph is 19, 12, and 1. So once we get a little bit further in, I'll do percentages. It's not really worth much to do percentages this early. Okay, so let's dive into our week 3 predictions, and then we'll wrap up with our selection for game of the week. So I'll do the first pick, and then I'll give Joseph the next one. So the first game, Titans at Jaguars. I've got Jaguars.
Same. And then next we have Bengals at Buffalo, and I'm going Bills. Buffalo Bills.
Okay, same here. Then Dolphins at Cowboys. I've got Cowboys.
Same. Denver Broncos at the Green Bay Packers. Going Packers.
Same. Falcons at Colts. This is a tough one, but I ended up landing on Falcons.
Same.
Okay.
That's a tough one too. Raiders at Vikings. Going Vikings.
Okay. Same here. Jets at Patriots. I'm picking Patriots.
Same. Lions at Eagles. Going Eagles.
Same. Panthers at Cardinals. I'm going Panthers.
Same. And then, I'm sorry, I got lost here. Giants at Bucks. Going Bucks.
Same. And then Texans at Chargers. Tough one after this week, but I landed on Chargers.
I'm going Texans.
Okay, so we disagree on one so far.
Steelers at Niners. Going Niners.
Same. And then Saints at Seahawks. I'm going Seahawks.
Same. And then Rams at Browns. Rams.
Yes, and then there's 2 other games. There's Ravens at Chiefs. I'm going Chiefs.
Same.
And then Bears at Redskins.
Bears.
You're going Bears? Okay. I'm actually going Redskins on this one.
Okay.
So
okay. 2 differences?
Yeah, so we got Bears at Redskins and then Texans at Chargers, right? Okay.
Yes.
So then we agreed our game of the week is going to be Ravens at Chiefs. That should legit be an awesome game because you've got a top 8, maybe even top 5 defense going up against probably the number 1 offense. And it's at Chiefs, so we get to see what the Ravens are made of. Can Lamar Jackson keep it up? There's a lot of questions I think that can potentially get answered in this game. So really looking forward to that. And then we'll also let you guys know, in addition to our picks for week 4, what our choice for game of the week for week 4 is going to be next weekend as well.
Yeah, I think, as I said earlier, talk about this game a little bit. I think the Ravens and Chiefs, this could determine the other bye in the AFC.
It could, yeah. It really could come down to that. I agree. All right, everybody. That's a wrap for this episode. If you enjoyed tonight's episode or any of our past episodes, please like, share, and subscribe here on YouTube, as those are free ways for you to support our show. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at The Practice Squad and at Neuralizer_. Just as a reminder, if you've missed past episodes, you can watch or listen to them right here on my YouTube channel. I typically upload on Tuesday evenings, the day after we go live. As always, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Yeah.